Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Teams Like Brighton. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you, it is the big one. It is the one we always look forward to. Crystal Palace away. It's the big one. Richie, you're anticipating it all. As the Brighton reporter, are you looking forward to Palace away?
Yes, although unfortunately I can't go because I've got time off. But apart from that, yeah, it's an interesting one because obviously not being too aware of the rivalry before I started this job a couple of years ago, um, it was an intriguing one, because on the face of it, obviously, just under 50 miles away. Um, in terms of, I guess, it's not a case of like, Arsenal, Man United rivalry. They weren't competing for loads of trophies. So you kind of think, what's the thing? And then obviously you dig deeper and you go, okay, that's an interesting one. That's innovative or different. And then just, going to a couple of the games, there is pure vitriol from both to one another. And I haven't, was it? So I've covered, the first one I covered was the 1-1 draw at Selhurst Park in 2020 when McAllister scored late on. Obviously, that was the 1-0, and then heartbreaking 2-1 loss at the Amex during the lockdown season, and then 2 1-1s. Don't let it bounce. So, I've seen, unfortunately, I haven't seen any wins from Brighton, but I have to say, if there is a time to do it, it is now. Brighton are 6th in the league. Palace are 12th. Brighton are 10 points ahead. Palace have, I think, picked up 2 from 15 in the last 5 games. Brighton have won. They just can't stop winning at the moment. 6th in the league. I think they've won 3 of the last 4 Premier League games. This is a good time to play them, hopefully. But you could maybe say form and all that goes out the window when it comes to a rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, like the rivalry for anyone that is outside of either club, it's difficult to understand or appreciate. For us, it's very simple. We hate them. This is why, and that's it. That's just it ingrained into our minds. It is so bizarre how it's all happened. I mean, I don't know if you knew about this, Richie. We used to be nicknamed the Dolphins.
I did know that. Yes.
What do you know why we changed it to Seagulls?
I can't remember. Do tell.
So apparently this is what I'm sure I'm going to get someone that's going to correct me on this, but I always told about many years ago we were nicknamed the Dolphins, and when Palace came over, they had the chant "Eagles, Eagles," to which we sarcastically chanted "Seagulls" in response, and directors decided to rebrand ourselves as the Seagulls in inspiration to that one. But that's not really where the rivalry started.
That's ultimate trolling, though.
That is
fair play.
That is ultimate housery. I love it. Yeah, just set the bait, just waiting to bite. Love it. But I think if you're a Brighton fan or you're a Palace fan, you always get told about a certain FA Cup match which happened at Stamford Bridge. I believe it was the second replay in the FA Cup. And to this day, I can't remember the guy's name, the referee, but he gave about 4 or 5 penalties, each one more dubious than the other, supposedly. If anyone could find the highlights of this on YouTube or anywhere online, I recommend you just get a really strong drink to the side of this, because what you'll see is just comedy in action for a match. And it almost was the catalyst that really ignited it all. And at the time, Alan Mullery was in charge for us. And on the other side of that was his former Spurs teammate and also club rival, Terry Venables. Terry Venables got the upper hand and he had the bragging rights for it. And there's this iconic photo of Alan Mullery getting escorted by police, giving it the 2 fingers to the Palace fans. And did it stop there? No, it didn't. He stormed into the Crystal Palace dressing room, and he gets all the change he's got in his hand, in his pocket, throws it onto the ground and said, "You're not worth that, lads." And he walks off. And that really,
that's a mic drop, isn't it?
it really is. We lost in that FA Cup. So from a Palace fan's perspective, you could think that is absolute pure pettiness at its finest.
It's the
From
moral
us,
victory.
yeah, it's the moral victory. For us, it's very much Houser at its finest. Absolutely here for it. Alan Mullery, you legends. And I had the pleasure of actually seeing him last weekend, and he just like he loves talking about the Albion. I know he's a Spurs legend as well, and he's been to like played at the highest level for England. But when he talks about the Albion, you just know it's coming from a place of heart, not from just chatting about an experience that you've had. But that really cemented it all. And for me, and I think a lot of people of my age who haven't really experienced a lot of the Palace rivalry up until, I would say, in the last 10 years. I think when I was a lot younger, about 12, 13, there was a season where we met Palace in the Championship, and a certain Andrew Johnson just ruined one weekend for me when he scored a hat-trick in a 5-0 annihilation against us. That was just something that angered my dad so much. He was yelling on the phone to, I think it was BBC Sussex at the time, and TalkSport. He just rang up everyone and anyone so he could just rant about it. He was livid. To this day, I remember him saying, "I went on the radio." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I was fuming, son." I was like, "Okay, Dad. Right, here we go." What should have been a warning there ever since, because I think I've got that hatred now from him. I blame him on him, because when I really got a first taste of it was when we got back up to the Championship under Gus Poyet. And there were times where it was just so frustrating, because we just felt that we were the better team at times, but it just never happened. We never got the results. I think it was a season or two in, and that game on St. Patrick's Day when we won 3-0, Spanish Day, beautiful curling free kick, and a cracking volley from Leo Ajoa just to assert our dominance through it all. Really just kind of highlighted, yes, here we go, guys, we could do it. But then, of course, Crystal Palace have a certain player called Wilfried Zaha, and just ruined it all during the playoffs that very same season. So I'm not, as you could tell, I'm a Brighton fan. I'm bred to not like Palace in the same way Palace fans are bred not to like us, which is fine. But there is this special hatred that you have for players like Wilfried. So I would say hatred, just a pure dislike, because he's one of those players where if the shoe was on the other foot, you'd absolutely love him, because he gets it. And it's annoying because I've seen interviews with him about when he talks about us, and he gets it from a Palace perspective, which really grinds my gears. But if we had someone like that for us, who gets the club and gets the rivalry, and he talks on Housery levels, then yeah, absolutely, I'm there for it. But then we've also had, like you said, you've mentioned it before, the "why'd you let it bounce" moment. But then they've also had the Glenn Murray moment as well, which was the first defeat at the Amex as well, which I've always been reminded of by certain Palace fans, friends of mine, which is never a great thing. But like all rivalries, there are highlights and there are very, very dark lowlights. Which just kind of makes you appreciate this beautiful game even more, because they're always the first fixtures that you look forward to whenever you get fixture release day, and hopefully the one where you can get tickets for, which annoyingly I didn't.
Well, yeah, that's very enlightening. That was a good, nice little rant there. But yeah, just on Zaha itself. So I'm looking up, going the old stat cave, and according to Transfer Market, in
Great
14 games against Brighton, he scored 8 goals.
Yep.
Had 2 assists.
Yep.
And the win-loss draw record is 5 wins, 6 draws and 3 losses. So he's and actually, if you look at other teams in terms of his record against them, he's got the best goal to games ratio, and he's not scored more against any other team apart from Brighton. He scored 8 goals against Leicester, but that was in 21 games, whereas this was 14. So he really does deliver against Brighton, sadly. Obviously, the big question I guess in terms of team news, will he be fit or not?
He will. You know he will. You just know he will. He's done this before, Richie. He's done this before. And it's fuming. It's annoying when he does this because it's just like, I think he does this on purpose. I'm going to go down the conspiracy theory route. He does this on purpose. He misses out 2, maybe 3 games, says he's got dodgy hamstrings, does a few motivational posts on Instagram, and then it's like he gets a moment where he just gets a smash and grab win. It is interesting, though, when you look back on these matches, and if any Palace fan ever watches this, they could safely agree with this as well. The better team has not got the result they deserved in this match since both sides have been in the Premier League. I've never gone out of a game where we've got a result and thought we deserved that. And I'm pretty sure Palace fans have thought the same. It is such a game where it's just momentum doesn't come into it. Form doesn't come into it. It is very much you've got to make it your own. I mean, I've just reminded myself of Anthony Knockaert's absolutely ridiculous goal at Selhurst Park. They even got Glenn Murray like covering his face, he's going, I can't believe I've just seen that. Top bins, beautiful curling effort, but even in that match, we didn't deserve to get a result at all. We really didn't. So,
what about the Florian Andoni's classic goal in that 3-1 win? Did they deserve to win that one at the Amex?
I think, we definitely did deserve to win that one. To be fair, I think that was that the first season.
Yeah, it was December. Well, December 2018. So
it was second season. Yes, yeah, that was iconic. That game, Duffy gets sent off. Balogun comes on for that corner, and first touch is him scoring a goal in front of the Palace sort, which was great. And that Andoni goal as well was that's just legendary. That's just the stuff that makes you a cult hero, no matter how badly it's ended at this club.
Yeah, you'll always be remembered for that, for sure.
Yeah, you'll be remembered for sure. Like Paul McShane, like he said some silly stuff, but he's thought of fondly in many corners of the Brighton fan base for the winner he scored again at Selhurst Park as well. So there are so many moments where you just think this isn't just a game. Like those moments are remembered, and you talk about them for so many years. Even like I think that Andoni goal still for me probably one of my favorite goals that we've scored in the Premier League era, just because of just the magnitude of it. And you think of Warren Aspinall's reaction on BBC Sussex Radio. All those little moments just add up to one, and you just think, yeah, these moments are iconic. I think that's probably the last time a result was deserved on the performance, rather than just taking that moment. All round, we were the better side, and which was surprising considering we were down to 10 men after about, I think it was like something like 20, 25 minutes. And when that happened, I just thought, oh God, here we go. We're doomed. See you later, guys. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the head-to-head. It's really, really close. So Brighton, since the first meeting back in 1920, they've played a heck of a lot of times. But Brighton have the edge in the head-to-head. So they've won 40, lost 38, and drawn 29. So it's real, like, by a nose type stuff. But so looking ahead to the game, as we said earlier, Brighton in 6th, Palace in 12th, 10 points in it. How do you see this one going, Tom?
Momentum's all with us. All of it is with us. That Palace are not in a good place this season overall, and you can see that in the frustration that Vieira's had in press conferences and just the mannerisms that a lot of the players are displaying on the pitch. And afterwards, it's very much chalk and cheese in comparison to how they were last season. You know, FA Cup semi-final, they were flying high, they were having really good runs in the league, playing really good football. But it just hasn't been built on. And when it's not get built on, and when you've lost a player like Conor Gallagher, this is the point. This is why you get the saying of you should never fall in love with a lone player. And Palace did in Gallagher because he was superb for them. He carried that midfield really. So you've got that to factor in. And Palace didn't really replace, or if they did, not successfully. And they didn't really build on any form of momentum, which would have infuriated Vieira, because I'm sure he would have been like, we need players. We need to build up on this squad if we want to progress, and or at least keep that momentum going. Because you want to be, for that club with the new owners, you want to be a good, solid mid-table side, but they're slowly getting clawed into this relegation battle. And while the league table may say, well, I think they're 12th place, and you think, yeah, they're fine, they're safe. You get a couple of bad results, and other teams below you are doing well. You're going to find yourself in the relegation dogfight come March, April time, and that's the worst possible time to do it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But this is a rivalry. I'm going to say the old cliche: form goes out the window in these matches. But they do. Yeah. Eyes rolling because I said it. Yeah, but it's true. We say it because it's true. Look at the games that we've had recently with Palace. Not either side who have deserved to win the match haven't won. I think, like I said, the last time we won it was back when we had Houghton. And we've had a couple of managers since then. I think the main thing I want to see is how is De Zerbi going to deal with it? Because I think that's one that's going to really solidify him with the fan base, because he needs to get the rivalry. I personally never saw Potter get it. He managed to get good results in, don't get me wrong, but from like a manager-fan relationship perspective, I just felt he never got it. He never got it to that level. De Zerbi's done more for the fans and with the fans than Potter's done during his whole tenure at the club. But De Zerbi it'll be interesting to see, A, hopefully, if he celebrates when we get the goal, and B, like how he reacts afterwards. Because the guy considering certain speculation that's happened, it'll be great to see him really show that he actually cares wholeheartedly about the club. And one thing the fans want to see is like, do you care about the Palace match?
Yeah, I think after obviously the win over Bournemouth, he said obviously he's never had this sort of thing, but he really wants to deliver a victory for the Brighton fans. Just on matters on the pitch, I guess from a Brighton perspective, they will be boosted by Moises Caicedo will probably start, obviously after coming off the bench against Bournemouth last week. Alexis McAllister is back from suspension, so that's a massive boost in that sort of double midfield role. It'll be so we're obviously filming this on Thursday, so it'll be interesting to see if Evan Ferguson is fit after his knee issue, if Adam Lallana is any closer to coming back from a muscular problem, and if Levi Colwill could return after a quad issue. So, and then also at the top of the pitch, if Ferguson's not fit, will De Zerbi go for two up top, as he has done in the last couple of games with Dennis Undav and Danny Welbeck? I don't know about you, Tom, but I actually thought that Welbeck has been fairly ineffective in the last couple of games. Obviously, Undav got his first Premier League start last weekend and was fine. I don't think he was fantastic, but it's a shame that if Ferguson isn't fit, and it's incredible to say that you're sort of almost not relying, but you're going, this is our best attacker at the moment in an 18-year-old. Well, sorry, it's best striker, not best attacker, because Matoma is obviously on fire. But I don't know if that combination has worked so far, the two up top. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they had an extra midfielder and then I wouldn't be surprised if Welbeck led the line maybe if Ferguson isn't fit. And yeah, I just as I said earlier, unfortunately I can't go. I'm not going to the game because I've got time off. But I'm looking forward to seeing the highlights of sort of the Brighton put together like De Zerbi cam. Him on the pitch, probably getting heckled constantly by the Palace fans, but he'll be. I think he'll be so up for it. I think he's done, like you say, I think he's done a very good job to endear himself to the fans and to show that he's on their side and thank them for their support. And I think he'll completely get it. He wears his heart on his sleeve. There's my cliche. And hopefully Brighton can deliver another win, because obviously that would boost their European chances. And a win over Palace is definitely long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've touched on something there about the whole Welbeck-Undav partnership. Personally, the way I see it, I think that's just very much been a short-term tactic that De Zerbi's used, just because he's had a bit of an issue in the midfield. McAllister's been suspended. Caicedo was unavailable for that time. But I think we'll see both of those guys start. And I think Gross will start in that middle as well. I think. Because I think Lamptey will start. I think.
So you think Lamptey over maybe Veltman at right back?
Yeah, I think Lamptey will start. I think he was quite. I was quite impressed with him against Bournemouth. I think he took his chance well. I think he will start, and then Veltman will come in to manage the game if it needs that moment. I think we're going to be quite aggressive going for this match. And it'd be quite interesting to see how the likes of Matoma and March do. March gets it, being from born and bred in Horsham. Matoma will be interesting to see how he copes with it, because obviously him being the star man against a Palace crowd. That Holmesdale end is they're a loud bunch. They're not quiet for sure. So it'd be interesting to see how he copes with that. But I've got no issue for in the middle, and fortunately we've got one of our own in Lewis Dunk as the captain. He will instill it in the players. If De Zerbi doesn't get it, Lewis Dunk will, and he'll make sure that no one goes onto that pitch without realizing that this is something the fans care about more than anything, and we're going to have to prove a point at Selhurst Park, which will be fantastic.
Yeah, so obviously touching on Selhurst Park and Palace, we're now going to shift over to the Palace perspective, if you can bear that, Tom. We're going to chat to Edmund Brack, Crystal Palace reporter for South London Press, and he will give us the lowdown on Brighton's opposition. Hello, everyone. So we've got a special guest today to preview the Crystal Palace game. We've got Edmund Brack of the South London Press, who covers Crystal Palace and goes to the game every week. Edmund, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Richie. How are you, my friend?
All good. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. So let's crack on to it. So Tom is a Brighton fan, Edmund's a Palace fan, but we're going to put those differences aside for this one. So can you just give me your thoughts on Crystal Palace's season as a whole and how it maybe compares to last season? So Vieira's obviously the first season in charge.
So it's a strange one, really. I think if you looked at where we were last season as a football club, it felt quite progressive. We had these young players come in after a season under Roy Hodgson, where you kind of clear out the older players on the higher wages, and the football's exciting and it's free flowing, and the fans are loving it. And Palace are on their way to an FA Cup semi-final, and the feeling around the club is one that it probably hasn't experienced for a while since it's been promoted back to the Premier League. And then you look at the summer thinking, okay, you're going to lose Conor Gallagher. You're going to need to strengthen because he was such a key component of what happened during that first season. You don't replace him. The squads, with the way that it plays naturally, will just sit deeper. And the feeling around the club this season hasn't been quite optimistic, let's say, as it was last season. There's a certain feeling that perhaps Palace didn't have missed out on an opportunity of what they built on last season, and perhaps I think the feeling is summed up by what's going on around us. If you look at the clubs below us and around us in the table, it feels like they're reacting to situations, and Palace feel like somewhat that they've stagnated a little bit and haven't strengthened in the areas that they needed to. So it's a long way of saying that the feeling around the club isn't as optimistic as it was last season.
Edmund, I'm just going to go straight in, and I'm going to address the elephant in the room. That is Wilfried Zaha. What can you tell us? Is he going to be playing, or is he going to be missing out this weekend's clash?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, if you look at his injury record as a whole, he's been quite a quick healer. When he had the hamstring injury last season, which is the same, I don't know whether it's the same hamstring this time around, but he healed a lot quicker than was expected. I think he may have been somewhat out on the grass at the start of the week. So whether he's fit enough to start the game on Saturday will be interesting. I mean, Vieira was quite not optimistic. He was playing down his chances last weekend of being involved anytime soon. But this is Wilfried Zaha. This could be his farewell tour. So if he's gonna make a comeback for one of these games, it's gonna be Brighton, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
You talked about Palace not capitalising on sort of the good work from last year and maybe areas that need strengthening. Can you just maybe go into what areas did need strengthening and what a bit more about that missed opportunity?
I think we've addressed it now in this January window, but the midfield's been such a problem for Palace this season. I think Sky put up a stat not too long ago that we're rock bottom of the league in terms of distance covered in games. And when you looked at us last season, it looked like Conor Gallagher dragged us around the pitch in every area of it. We've addressed that in the window. We're bringing in Sambi Lokonga from Arsenal and Hamada from Stuttgart. Hamada's probably one for the future and Lokonga for the now. But just looking at our forward options, really, I think we create so many opportunities and we never seem to put them away. I mean, I've lost count of the number of times Vieira's spoken about it in his post-match press conference of ruining missed chances and we need to score goals. Jean-Philippe Mateta hasn't exactly set the world alight at Crystal Palace. He fails to impact games most time, and Odsonne Edouard hasn't found a consistent run in front of goal. And when you let experience go, such as Christian Benteke, who he wasn't the Christian Benteke of heyday at Aston Villa, but he's still one of the best headers of a football around in football. So it's that's probably the particular area where Palace have missed out on an opportunity. It's kind of the missing piece of the puzzle.
Where is it that seems to be going wrong for you guys? Obviously, like Vieira's first season in charge, things were looking fantastic and there seems to be a really strong foundation to build on. Why hasn't it progressed in the second season as much as many would have hoped?
It's a good question. I think it just feels like with the style of play that we had last season, it felt really progressive. It felt like, that no matter what, Palace went into games and they were competitive in every outing. We put big teams to the sword, and it felt like we had a bit of oomph about us that we've lost maybe in recent seasons. I'm not sure why it feels this way particularly, but I think when you look at the teams around you and the way that like yourselves, Brighton, we're envious of the type of business that you do and the way that De Zerbi's implemented his style of play there. It looks exciting to be a part of. With Palace, there's a real danger that they've gambled on their Premier League future, not investing properly in the areas that needed investment, and it could be quite a tight end to the season. I know we're in a good position, but this is the Premier League. It's the hardest league in the world. If you don't spend and if you don't invest in your squad, eventually you're going to be caught up with.
Do you think that, you touched on Zaha, I believe he's out of contract in the summer?
He is, yeah.
Just a sort of, I guess, prediction from you. Do you think he will go? And do you think maybe just in terms of having a new sort of era, trying to, go from one transition to the other type thing, do you think that could maybe be a good thing, or how do you see it?
I could never imagine a Crystal Palace side without Wilfried Zaha. He's gone off the ball recently, to be fair to him, in terms of his goal scoring output, but he looked like he'd been carrying an injury for a few weeks. So I don't think it was any surprise to see him pull up the other week against Newcastle. In terms of whether I think he'll stay around, I think he'll run down his contract to see what's around, see what's there for him. But just due to everything he's been through with Crystal Palace, the amount of love that the fans have for him and that he has for the club, I wouldn't be surprised if we did end up agreeing something where he stayed on for the foreseeable future.
What is it that... sorry, absolutely lost my trail of thought there. Where can you see Palace's season going? Considering the fact there wasn't a lot of comings and goings in the January transfer window.
I mean, we haven't won a game this year, 2023. We haven't won at home since October 29th when we beat a Southampton team that looked like it was only going in one direction. I fear for Crystal Palace's safety this season. I don't. It's strange because people from the outside perceive us as a club that looks like it's got its business together and that things are going well, but on the pitch of late, just we are defensively solid. I'll give us that. So if we do manage to stay up, it will be because of that. But we really struggle to put the ball in the back of the net. And you look at the teams around us: Wolves hiring a Champions League quality coach, Aston Villa having Unai Emery, a Champions League quality coach. Leeds reacting, Southampton and Bournemouth could react this weekend if things don't go well for them. And I fear that Palace could be dragged into it if they don't start putting the ball into the back of the net and digging out these results.
Do you think if you do get to that sort of point, do you think Vieira will be the man to maybe lead you out of those issues, or how do you see it?
It's an interesting one. I think once you kind of head towards that style of play, there's only a certain few type of managers that can come in and work with those type of players. Looking at someone like Everton and Sean Dyche, he's got a backbone there of a core of players that you think could dig out results for him every week. I don't necessarily think that there's a ready-made replacement for Vieira waiting in the wings, and I think the players are still playing for him, and that's the big thing. Palace are competitive, but there have been performances this season where it just doesn't look right. Like the 3-0 defeat up at Everton or the 1-0 defeat to Nottingham Forest earlier in the season. It was a shadow of what Crystal Palace produced last season, where they would put teams to the sword. Michael Olise was playing with freedom. Richie was playing with freedom, and it leads to the question of whether Vieira does get the best sometimes out of his attacking talent. I think, as I mentioned at the start, the way that we play now is completely different. We have we have a holding midfielder in Czech Decore and someone alongside him. Who that's going to be now, probably Sambi Lokonga, but it doesn't feel as naturally progressive as it did last season. It's not I wouldn't say it's as exciting as it was last season.
I want to talk about the Brighton Palace rivalry because many outsiders just don't understand this rivalry, and it is one that both sets of fans always look forward to. Basically, in your view, explain the rivalry to everyone.
It all stems from that FA Cup game, doesn't it? I mean, I've just grown up always being told that they're the enemy. So, yeah, I mean, I think we didn't play each other for ages, did we? I wasn't old enough when we did you 5-0 at your old ground for Jovi McAnuff scored. But when we played you in the playoffs, it seemed like it all just started to bubble up again, and the rivalry kind of intensified a little bit. And now we're both together in the Premier League. I mean, I'm particularly envious of what Brighton are doing and the way that the Zerbi's come in, and it's refreshing to see how well you do. But yeah, I mean, Palace and Brighton it's sworn in stone, isn't it, that we always have to hate each other.
Can I just say thank you so much for not saying the M23 derby?
Oh no. I've heard someone call it El Gatwico before, so
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the A23 derby is. I think it's Sky Sports, isn't it, that keeps kind of pushing that.
Yeah.
Monica, but yeah, it's interesting you said about the it kind of ramping up around sort of the championship time, because I was just looking back at obviously Glenn Murray, one of the few players to play for both teams, and he said that when he moved to Palace in I think 2011, he basically wasn't really aware of the rivalry. He knew of it, but he didn't realise of the kind of venom between the two supporters, and he basically said that he realised his kind of not mistake, but he realised that he wouldn't be in Brighton's best books or good books about an hour after Sky Sports announced the transfer. But there you go. So I guess looking ahead to this game, obviously he said Palace aren't doing their best, but they still have a lot of good players. Who would you say are the ones to really look out for, I guess, from a Brighton perspective?
Ooh. I mean, Chris Richards has been a revelation since he's come in for Joachim Andersen at the back. Him and Mark Gahey have formed a really good partnership, and it looks like we found a kind of defensive. We're quite solid at the back to give Vieira his credit. He has managed to find a way that we don't concede too many goals. Chet Decore is a really, really good player, wins the ball back a lot. He's been lining it up for a while, where he's been shooting from distance, and the keeper's either just saved it or it's just sailed over the posts, sailed over the crossbar. So if he does manage to score his first goal for Palace with a long range effort from distance against Brighton, I think he might go down in folklore. But Michael Elise, obviously, a special talent that can kind of pluck something from nothing. You saw the goal he did against Manchester United not too long ago. I think the key thing for Palace is taking their chances when they get them. We're gonna let you, I assume, have a lot of the ball. So we're gonna have to remain defensively solid. And when Eze, Elise, Edouard, potentially Zaha does get that chance, we have to take it.
It always seems to be Zaha that always takes them as well. I swear he's got that unwanted record. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But look, Edmund, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting to us. I think we're going to have to round it up. What is your score prediction ahead of this weekend's match?
Heart 1-0 Palace, Head 2-1 Brighton. So yeah, I'm not too optimistic about it.
Go on, Richie. What's yours?
I think it's gonna be another 1-0. I think it's gonna be 3 in a row.
I'll take the 1-0.
I'm going for a conservative 5-0 win. I'm going to be delusional here. I've got to.
That's what you're actually going for. You're not just. It's honestly say it's going to be 5-0.
Honestly 5-0. I'm going for it. Why not? I'm going delusional here. We're going to look back on this on Monday and laugh.
The atmosphere at Selhurst would be incredibly toxic, I think, if Brighton ran away with a 5-0 win on Saturday.
Oh. Well, yeah. I mean, you were saying about Hart overhead. Well, he's definitely gone Hart there.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I just want to finish off by maybe saying where people can find your work online and website wise.
I'm on Twitter at Edmund Brack. The South London Press. If you're really interested, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on. And it should be a tasty one.